today. I heard that y'all was looking for Israel Adesanya. I heard that y'all was looking for Shira Bullet. A little birdie told me y'all was looking for Michael Venom Page. Also, somebody told me you was looking for Carlos Alberg. But more importantly, a few people mentioned to me that you was looking for Yanni Blanco, Jan Blachowicz. Well, guess what? We got them all, plus Tom and John. All of this and more on today's episode of Matter of Fact MMA. What's up? What's happening? Let's go. What's up, guys? We right back at it. We right back with it. It's your boy, Matt. We are here to go over some recent fights that were just made and a possible fight that's still lingering out there in the sphere, in the MMA sphere, in the ethos, you know what I'm saying? Whatever other big words you want to pull out. We're going to go over a few of them today. Let's start out with the one that I don't think is going to be made, but Dana White keeps on talking about it. Daddy Warbucks, big money, deep pockets Dana White is still talking about he's trying to make Jon Jones versus Tom Aspinall. He believes it will go down next year, and he says it will be the biggest fight in mixed martial arts history. All of this remains to be seen. All of this remains to be seen. You know, if you believe Jon Jones, there's an amount. He calls it FU money. I don't necessarily know how much FU money it is. I've rumored 50 million, maybe. I'm not sure. But Jon Jones has a number in his head that he wants. And historically, the UFC does not pay their fighters that number that they want. I don't know if this changes anything because it could be his retirement fight. I don't know if it changes anything because with a win, it could catapult Tom Aspinall into the upper echelon of mixed martial arts. I really don't know. I really still don't think this fight is going to be made because I feel like if John was willing to play ball and make the Tom fight, they could have already been inching toward this a long time ago. You know what I'm saying? So we'll see if that will be made, but I just wanted to bring that up because every other day Dana White is speaking out about making the Tom versus John fight. But let's move on from that. Let's talk about some other fights that were made that should be very, very interesting. Let's start out with the return of the former middleweight champion, Israel Adesanya, makes his return to the octagon against Imov, of course, in middleweight. This is going to be very interesting because on one hand, now, if you've been watching my channel for a while, I'm not a fan of Izzy the person. I am a fan of his fighting style, just not of him as a person, so I usually root for him to lose. But this is very interesting because we're really going to see where Adesanya falls in the current pecking order in the middleweight division. We saw him take a L to Sean Strickland. And I mean, he was dominated by Sean Strickland. Now, he's never really spoken out, said he had like an injury or anything like that. So, you know, to his credit, he's just taking that L. But not to say Sean Strickland is a bad fighter, but to see the way he dominated Adesanya, that was a pause for the cause. You know what I'm saying? That was like, wait a minute. Adesanya really out here getting dominated by Sean Strickland? So then he makes his return against his arch nemesis, Still Knox, Dricus du Plessis. And once again, he had moments in that fight. He definitely was not dominated. That was a good fight. It was a good fight. Both guys were really throwing shots there. But at the end, when Dricus took his back and eventually choked him out, it was almost like Adesanya tapped because it was like, of course he was going to go out. He was either going to tap or he was going to pass out. But it was almost the same way that Alexa Grasso beat Valentina Shevchenko, it was like a checkmate. It was like both of them tapped, I believe, before they really needed to tap. Not to say they would ever get out of either choke, but it was almost like, you got me. And there was a tap. You know what I'm saying? So, I'm not taking anything away from Adesanya, but you have to wonder, when you're no longer at the top, you're no longer the champion, you're already paid, you're already considered to be one of the cooler fighters in the UFC, even though I think he's one of the lamest. So, you have to wonder, what else are you fighting for, and what's going to get you up? You know, what's going to get you up out of bed, out of the silk sheets, to go out there and train your hardest at this point in your career when your next fight is Imov? You know what I'm saying? Because Imov has everything to gain. If he looks good against Adesanya, that's a win for him. If he beats Adesanya, his career is on point and it's going upward. And he's probably looking at a title shot at the winner of Dricus and Sean Strickland. You know what I'm saying? So everything is there for him. But if Adesanya wins, what does he do at that point? You know what I'm saying? Because he's already lost to Dricus and he's already lost to Sean. So I guess they would try to throw him in there against a rematch against either guy. But personally, I feel like the UFC is going to force Adesanya to at least win one more fight outside of Imov. So really, really strange fight. How the mighty have fallen, because, you know, a couple of years ago, you never could have convinced me, unless Imov just went on a tremendous run, that these two would ever be fighting. But hey, you mess around with dogs, you lose some fights, and this is where you end up, Adesanya. Anyway, let's move on. How about this? How about Shira Bullet? Shira Bullet making his return, of course at middleweight, against a man moving up from welterweight to middleweight, Michael Venom Page, MVP. This should be an outstanding fight. This is going to be an outstanding stand-up affair. Neither man is going to take this to the ground unless it happens that way in some sort of a scramble. But this should definitely be a striking affair, and it should be interesting. Both men have a lot of spring in their step. Both men like to bounce on their toes. Both of them have very snappy, quick strikes. So it should be very interesting to see. I'm not going to make a pick right now, but, you know, I'm not sure how much of a snake charmer Shira Bullet is what I'll say. And you can do the math on that one. But, huge fight at middleweight. I'm assuming this means Michael Venom Page is probably going to stay at middleweight, at least for a few more fights after this one. Unless he goes out there and takes a horrible L, then he'll probably be like, I'm dropping back down to middleweight. Back down to welterweight. Back down to some weight. Regardless, though, that's the fight that's been signed. Should be very, very interesting to see. Let's move on. How about another fight where we have Carlos Alberg? Carlos Alberg making his return. Fairly quick turnaround. This is going to be early next year. He's making his return against former light heavyweight champion Yanni Blachowicz, or as you might know him, Jan Blachowicz. You know what I'm saying? Yanni Blachowicz. This is going to be a very interesting fight. Now, at this point, I'm not going to say Yanni is washed. That's not what I'm going to say. You know, you look at his last few fights, he's only fighting top guys, and he's only taking L's, you know, the top guys. And he has been out for almost a year, if not more, with the injury. So that's going to be very interesting to see when he comes back how he looks. But I think this is going to be a good fight, because at the end of the day, you're not going to teach an old dog new tricks. Yanni Blachowicz is a veteran. He's been out there for a long time. He's fought the top level competition. You know what I'm saying? And he's still here. He's still coming back. You know, he doesn't seem like a man that carries a lot of vices or anything in his life. He's probably in pretty good condition, pretty good health. Hopefully he got over whatever his injury is. And, you know, he's a sharp cat in the octagon. So that should be very interesting to see if all of his experience, being his veteran savvy, can go in there and defeat a young up-and-coming star future star being Carlos Alberg, who, is definitely going to have the more accurate striking, definitely going to be faster on his feet. But Yanni Blanco is a big dude, way, way bigger than Carlos. So if Yanni, who is a pretty good wrestler, pretty good grappler, if he can get this down to the ground the way that he did Adesanya back in the day, it should be very interesting to see. So that's a couple of the fights that are coming up early next year in 2025. So we're going to check those out for sure. And we're going to see if Dana White is blowing smoke or if he's really going to make John versus Tom. So we'll have to check all of that out. Nevertheless, I'll be right back with you guys probably tomorrow with a breakdown of the upcoming boxing heavyweight rematch. Alexander Usyk stepping back into the ring with Tyson Fury. Once again, all the belts on the line, or at least the remaining titles. I believe maybe one of them had to be given up due to mandatories. Nevertheless, we're going to check it all out. And, let me know what you think about some of these fights that were just made. Who do you got winning in these fights? And I definitely do want to thank you for joining me for another episode of Matter of Fact MMA. And I'll check you next time. Peace.